My article is about Byzantine liturgy. I'm going through some basic historical development of the Palestinian and Constantinopolitan liturgical traditions, as well as the present received liturgical structures and some theological aspects of Byzantine liturgy. For Eastern Christianity, liturgy is one of the, if not the most important theological elements. In the Eastern churches, liturgy is the utmost expression of theology, actually as such. And in order to understand how our theology was perceived, how it was distributed, and how it still continues to be distributed to the broader public, you have to understand how liturgy works. There's quite a lot of scholarly debate at the moment about the historical development of Byzantine liturgy, and a lot of the established narratives are being rewritten at the moment. And therefore, many of the things also in the article are summaries of the ongoing debates. That's why it's very difficult to provide a clear-cut historical narrative for the development of liturgy. There's still very much open questions. At the same time, it's quite important to know this historical structural development in order to understand why the present received Byzantine Rite looks like it looks nowadays. The Byzantine Church always gives so much emphasis on the structures themselves, and also gives a lot of theological connotations to the structures. In order to understand the theology of liturgy, you have to be very aware of the structural matters of liturgy as well. Liturgy is making its way into a broader theological consciousness, I would say, and that's a very important thing, because often we think there's a kind of gap between theologians and liturgists, a gap that I have never really understood, because, as I said, liturgy is the utmost expression of theology in the Byzantine Church, and therefore there is no theology without liturgy, and there is no liturgy without theology. My article provides detailed but also very understandable overview of liturgy to somebody who's not very well read in liturgical studies, but at the same time it's quite updated, I would say, about the recent developments of liturgical scholarship. It's quite important to understand where they come from and what their purpose was. It actually means a very thorough examination of liturgical scholarship in order to understand how our liturgy works. And I think with the help of the bibliography that I provided in the article, one can learn quite a lot about the traditions of Byzantine liturgy. One of the big challenges in liturgy generally is that it's not a purely textual or verbal tradition either. Liturgy also consists of music, architecture, gestures, movement, sounds, a lot of different constituents. It informs the believer through all of his senses in very, very different ways. It's this meeting point of theological, musical, historical, communal elements that all come together form this very, very complex whole. And I think this is an understanding of liturgy that has become more and more popular. It's not something that is transmitted by texts only, but it is actually something that exists in a very complex historical context, full of politics, full of art, full of expressions of emotions, in a very modest way, because the article obviously is quite short. I tried to provide an overview of this quite complex matter.